metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one. Global warming have the place the bake. Tsunami and earthquake. Then they leave land, they try to escape. Ye of little faith, we don't know we're real or we're fake. You have to watch the food you they put on your plate. In the lab manufacturing steak, could never flow through the general gate. Glorify his name, me begging. Glorify his name, me begging. Make we come together and blow fire upon the heat. Make we come together and blow fire upon the heat. Don't they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. Don't they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one. Chemtrails, the rain down pollution. Illicit chat about depopulation. Deep sea exploration. Submersible to the depths of the ocean. AI robotic. Ritual satanic. No matter what you do, you can't destroy the planet. They want sink like the Titanic. Glorify his name, me begging. Glorify his name, me begging. Make we come together and blow fire upon the heat. Make we come together and blow fire upon the heat. Don't they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. Don't they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one thing. Glorify his name, me begging. Glorify his name, me begging. Make we come together and blow fire upon the heat. Make we come together and blow fire upon the heat.
Yeah, Ezekiel call them dry bones. One must know, men have lost their course on a torboat, drift from shore without anchor and rope, unsecure. Amazing the battering wind and the trade waters. Golgotha's Titanic, egotistic big ship got rapture. Self-destruct disaster out there on the ocean floor. We can run, hide and peek. Conscience will surely find thee. Skip, jump and leap. A clean heart certainly give thee. Run, hide and peek. Conscience surely find thee. Kneel. Well, blameless and upright Job was a lot in his own sector. 7 sons, 3 daughters, he was anointed by the Holy Father.
Greetings, G. Michael Reed from Belize City. Sweet music in the background there. Is that CY music? Got a certainly is top quality song there. Appreciate that. Coming to you from the Jewel. This is another edition of our weekly podcast. We do this to keep you abreast of current events, stir the discussion, the pot of issues, and make sure that what comes to the top is what needs to be aired out. The situation is still dire in the Middle East, and we have to keep talking about that. We have to, at some point, speak more about that because it's the elephant in the living room. It's not going anywhere, and apparently it's not getting any better. We have a madman over there, really, totally mad, that seems to not want to listen to any reason. He has said before that nobody's going to preach to him about morality. Somebody's going to have to, because we cannot just sit aside as a world in this day and age, 2014, and watch all this happen without such a bleat, nothing to object. Belize, I think, made a bold move and will look good in the long run. Show us on the right side of history. when we objected and we decided to discontinue, cut ties. We didn't want to have anything to do with that because it is simply just wrong. We just did that though and let that go. We should not have. We should join our voices every Saturday with the rest of the world. You're not going to see it in the mainstream Western media, but people, hundreds of thousands, millions of people worldwide are screaming, hollering, protesting. Stop it. The killing of these innocent children and civilians is unlawful by every far stretch of the imagination, by every statute, by every convention. It is absolutely wrong. Please stop the genocide in Gaza. We are joined, of course, now by our co-host. And man, to get comfortable. Look like you're ready for rock us tonight. We're gonna talk tonight. Ain't no playing around tonight, boy.
Good
Um,
evening.
Gregory, good
Yes,
to
good
see, good
evening. Good
good to
evening.
see you, my brother.
Good evening,
Hi,
Ditra.
Nitra is making herself present. Yeah, man. Lisa is in the house. Hi, Lisa. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, we were supposed.
Your voice is not coming through clearly, Lisa.
Uh, give her a Lee shout out, Elisa. Give her a
Can you
hello.
hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, yeah,
And
that's
hopefully
better.
Joe will tune in soon, chime in. We're supposed to have Dolores this week. We have to apologize because she was caught up in that budget reading. The budget reading is in the house. We're supposed to be joined by a young man from the
Christopher is here.
Christopher is in.
Yes,
Christopher,
I
your
can
mic
see
is
him.
muted, so anytime you're ready to jump on board, hop on in there. Hi,
Good
how are you,
night.
sir? Yeah, good
Good
night.
Good
night.
night.
Tell us a bit about Christopher. Who is Christopher?
Yes, so my name is Christopher Brasser. Yes, so I am a university student. I'm pursuing my bachelor's degree in history at the University of Belize. Just little fun facts about me. I am a track and field athlete, mainly for the 800 and 1500 meters. I am also a ASL interpreter and also a lay minister in the church.
What type
Well,
of interpreter? What type of interpreter?
Sign language.
ASL? ASL?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
sign language. Okay, okay.
yeah, yeah. You don't have to be so bragging, though. But we applaud that. Yeah, no, but really, yeah, I'm
We like
impressed.
young people that are motivated
And
and
they're
doing
doing
wonderful
things.
things. Yes,
They're doing
yes,
things.
yes, yes, yes.
Christopher, you're a part of a generation that has a lot of us skeptical, wary of what we're going to be facing coming. Do you believe there are enough people like you and your age group that are serious about taking over the reins of this world, if not just our country?
Well, definitely we do. There are just like a little handful of us, and sometimes, we are the ones that, not really in the silence, we're just, very observant. We're behind the scenes, but we're being alerted of the issues that are affecting us, and slowly and slowly we're just observing, collecting before we can rise up
Step
to.
out there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but I really I hope so because things are not looking too well throughout the world. I mean, you're aware of all the turmoil that we have faced, the political situation in particular in Belize. Are you inclined at all to a political career? Are you thinking about that in any way?
Yes, one of my careers is to become the future prime minister of Belize, but the last male prime minister of our nation, paving the way for women prime ministers
Whoa,
onwards.
whoa, whoa, whoa! Do you think that men can't do the job and that we have to give women a chance? I heard that from Mayor Bradley this past week, and unfortunately, they shut that down. Do you really think it's going to make a difference if women lead us as opposed to men?
Um, oh, yes, sorry. Yes, I do believe that women have the capabilities of leading because there have, if you look at women in our history, even women that were leaders from different eras, they're very capable because even in many aspects, and especially with more women in this world, I believe that yes, because one of the fascinating things, when I was at when I graduated from Belmont Methodist High School, I was the first male student body president and considered to be the only male student body president because afterwards I already predicted that a woman was going to be in power and I supported and it did came true because I believe that women have the capability because they look up to us males and they also believe and they also have the ability of actually bringing that change and it's just us as a society to show that support and that way towards women.
Interesting. Are you raised in a two-parent home, mother and father?
I raised with only my mom.
Well, do you think that might have some influence on how
Are
you
you
view
are you want
that?
to say Christopher is brainwashed?
No, not at all. Chris, you just mute your mic. You mute your mic, Chris. Yeah. No, 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 no. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. No,
Um,
Mhm,
I listen. I believe that women are capable. I mean, who could not say that? And we were made male and female. If you
mhm.
believe that, what's your religious view? What persuasion are you? Are you religious at all?
Yes, I am a lay minister at the Anglican Church here in Belize.
Oh man,
So,
we
mhm,
struck gold here, Gregory. This fella has really you got your hands in a lot of things, and that is excellent. You study history. What
yes.
period? What area? What part of history? Tell us about the history that you study in school.
So at the University of Belize, so we have the bachelor's program in history, and we don't really at UB we don't really have associates, but we do have bachelors. The associates will be at St. John's College in Belize City, but here at the University of Belize we cover everything in the history from Belize history to world history, from Europe, America, the Caribbean, South America. You could name it all. We cover everything in that history subject.
Christopher, if you were to say that there's one thing in history that we should learn from, what would you put your finger on that you think we need to learn something from this? Because we've gone through a couple of major world wars. We're going through a couple of major ones now.
Hmm.
We have gone through lots of inventions, different things. We've gone from walking to riding to flying. Uh,
Hmm.
we've made some major steps in evolution. What in history should we learn from, or maybe not want to repeat?
Well, I think the history that everyone should learn, like for beginners, I will recommend you start with the basic history, understanding what is history and learning the components of history. Then from there, then you move on to learning your country's history because it's best to know about the history of your country that you're living in, knowing how it came to be, and then forward, then you branch off and learn outside how our history can either be similar or different from the views.
So
After
Deja
what
that,
type
wants
of
to know.
history?
Yeah. Deja wants to know if the history program covers the connection to the mosquito. Sure. I'm sorry, Greg. One second.
yes,
Um,
yes,
it
yes.
does. You,
Hmm.
you study about
It
that.
does.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry about
I'm trying to figure out specifically what type of history he's being taught in school and what his focus is in terms of history. I mean, history is so broad. We could be learning Western European, we could be learning
And
ancient,
mhm,
we could be learning world history, we could be learning current history, we could be
true.
learning Belize history, we could be learning Commonwealth
Mhm.
history. I'm trying to figure out what are you learning and what is your focus that you're trying to accomplish.
Okay, so currently I am doing social history of Belize, which is the current history class that I'm doing so far. And so in that oral, the social history of beliefs, we cover oral history, which is one of the key components. We're also working on projects as well towards oral history. One of them is
What
on the
textbook
music
do you
culture.
use for your courses? Is it just literature handouts, or is it a textbook that you're using?
We use well, we use textbooks, but these will be ebooks, PDF
I see.
files currently. So
So you could get a lot of stuff that you're studying online. You
But
go.
yeah.
could you give me some names of the textbook you're using? I'm just trying to see how broad the application of what you're being offered.
Um,
If you don't know, it's fine. That's fine to say you don't remember. That's fine. I
mhm,
was just trying to get a little bit of understanding of
Let
what
me not,
what's going on.
well, mhm.
let me introduce our fourth co-host, Jose Kawe. You might be aware, Mr. Kawe, a former minister of government, former mayor of Belize City. Joe, welcome to the show.
Nice being here, Mr. Shaw.
And you sound good tonight. Your mic is working well. Yeah. Christopher Broster is a student from UB and he's joining us for a little discussion tonight on different topics. Christopher the Broster, any relation to the Brosters of the police Brosters? Edward Broster, who's your dad?
Uncle.
Edward is your uncle.
So
Yeah.
the one in police, Edward Browser, is my uncle. My dad is yes.
Your dad is the one that's the athlete, because you have a Brasa that's a excellent athlete. He plays volleyball, and I think a couple of them are athletes. What's your dad's first name? I'm just trying to see if I can place you.
Wow, now my cousin. Okay, that's my cousin.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Anyway, so you're at UB. You're studying history. Now, Greg was trying
Yeah,
to tie you
most
down.
of them are my cousins. Those that play volleyball.
Okay, wonderful. I know they're athletic guys. Yeah. They do you study African history? You
I
hear
think
me?
there's a little bit of a delay in.
Yeah, I don't think that one delay. I think he's are you
Oh,
hearing
he
us,
freeze. He
Christopher?
freeze. He looked like
Yeah,
he freeze. He looked like his internet froze.
yeah. Next year I want to study technology. So I could keep that that thing going. Joe, how you go, man? Rough week, boy. We want to offer condolences to our good friend, mutual friend, Belindo. I understand Michael was in town. Are you back, Christopher?
Yes, he seemed to be back.
We lost you there. Can
Yes,
you
I'm
hear?
back.
He's on two lines, it seems.
Okay. Yeah, I said two of you. One of them, you're there on one.
Speak. Let me see. You might have to log off
Yeah,
completely and log back.
It's my laptop that is on, but try to come up from the one.
All right.
Okay.
You could hear us
I
now.
think you dropped the other one. Speak. Let me see if your voice is coming through clear.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes,
All right.
indeed.
It
Yeah,
sounds like you're in a little bit of a barrel, but it's better than what we were getting on the last turn.
Yeah, Christopher, do you guys discuss world matters in school? Do you like discuss maybe the Palestinian, the Middle East conflict?
Yes, we do talk about that. When that came about, the Palestinian war, we had a whole discussion and even debates about it. Because the thing is, like with the whole Israel Palestinian war, we had to trace back from its history from way back when the nation was one before it was divided into what we know as Israel and Palestine, and what were some of the treaties or implements that they tried to get both Israel and Palestine to work together, but unfortunately those plans never work out in favor because most of the favors were more towards the Israel from the Palestinian, and that led to the conflict that we're seeing today, and to the point that it's become to the extreme that we believe that we never thought it would. Well, we know we expected it, but to that level, yes, it was.
It was, what word would you use for it? How would you describe what is happening?
Um, I would describe it as being I'll say one of the most brutal. I would describe it as brutal.
Atrocious, maybe a good word.
Yeah. Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be putting words in his mouth now. Those are
No,
your
well,
words, Mike.
I waited 5 minutes before he
Mhm.
come up with one, and he came up with his one definition, which I believe was the same as that.
Mhm.
So yeah, but now, have you guys spoken about the Mayan issue in Toledo, and what we are facing now with the Mayan communal land matters, and the problems they're facing amongst themselves? Have you guys covered that at all in your class?
We did have a mention about it, yes, in one of our sessions where we talk about the issues with the land rights down in Toledo. I think we analyzed one of the posters that was shown down there as regards to them fighting for their land rights, especially with language, because one of the issues is not only about land but also the fact that the language they can't speak in their own areas. So that's an thing because Belize, we have been classified as an English speaking nation. However, due to our diversity of cultures, we have variety of languages that we speak. Creole being like the second highest language spoken by many Belizeans. We also have the Garifuna language, the Mestizo language, Quechua, Mopan, Yucatan, which are rare, which we don't really much heard, which I think we believe that should be more promoted more and to actually allow that language to speak more, which I believe. And
But nobody restricts it. Nobody. There's nothing that stops people from
Mhm.
speaking any language. They're speaking any way they
Mhm.
choose, right?
You
Or do you know of something that causes people, individuals, to not speak a language of their preference?
Because what happened is that when it comes to because like I mentioned, like Belize being a English speaking nation, we have this colonial framework that everything just being English. Like even in schools, it was English at the time that we had to speak English, so our mother language became like a downfall. But recently now they try to push the idea that you don't have that, they allowed you to speak your own language at the schools, which is to me, I think it was long overdue, but it was just because we were under
But
that.
don't you, as a student, don't you believe there have to be one common instructional language? Don't you think see a benefit to something like that?
Uh, f- yes, in a way, because then, because like I believe that all could like because many of us can't speak English, which I can agree. Some might have trouble with it, but what as long as everyone can understand English on a whole, I believe, yeah, it is a common instruction.
I would think it's more important that the lesson be passed on and people
Uh,
learn as opposed to what language is spoken or is taught in. When the government is consulting, it should be done in the language understood by the
mm,
people.
true.
That's teachers saying that, but now I don't know that we can. We have many dialects in Belize, not on the languages, but even
Yeah.
variants of a language. And do you consider Creole a language?
Y- Yes, I would say Creole is a language.
Okay, I don't know that it's officially classified as such. Might be just a dialect, but
Well,
be that
it's
as may,
considered a dialect. It will be considered a dialect because of it, but if you look at Belize on a whole, every Belizean speak language to the point that it became like a like a language identity for all Belizeans because it has been spoken a lot. Even though the Creole language now has changed because Creole on a whole is like a mixture of the European and African languages, which is broke up English that we will say. But then we also share that same Creole language with our brothers like Jamaica, but they are patios, and so
I believe
sometimes we
I believe that's patois, isn't it?
patois,
But
patois, yes,
yeah, you can
patois,
say
yes,
it can
patois,
be pronounced that
patois,
way too. Yeah, yeah.
But let me
Yeah,
patois,
yeah.
ask you a
patois.
question.
But
Let me
you
ask
say
you a
it in a
question.
Creole. Go ahead, Greg. Yeah.
Let me ask you a
Yeah.
question, Christopher.
Mhm.
Don't you believe, though, that as we move into this technological era that we're in, not just moving in, we're in it, immersed in it,
You were in-
that
mhm.
that that, and you get YouTube and you get all the different platforms, Facebook and all these, that the language will become more common, and then in the future, in the very near future, a lot of the other languages will be, and even the dialects and stuff will kind of fall apart. And we see that as we look I see it as we look across the board and look at people communicating. Sometimes when someone is speaking, they might be in Africa, they might be in Germany. You have to turn around to look at them to see that it's particularly with young people. You got to turn around and look at them to see that, hey, they're not a native person that speak English, because their English is so very good. And that seemed to be the common language that most people are adopting because of these media platforms. Do you see that?
Uh,
Yes, I see in a way because it in well in some like especially in the western part, most of everything speak in English, but also in the eastern as well. But there are some few media outlets that yes, you have it in English, but there's also the other where it's translated to their other language because you want that. Yes, English is the language that everyone will get adapted to, but at the same time, those that cannot or unable to understand the English, that they can get the same message as well translated to them. So I see.
No,
and
yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you. Just a moment, Mr.
yeah, go
Chairman.
ahead.
I,
Go
I,
ahead.
I agree with you that you do need to make the language understandable. If you're not speaking that people could understand you, there's no point in communicating. But I was just saying that probably as we move more in the future, we'll see this English being more adopted and becoming more the platform language that's spoken probably by most people throughout the world.
You
Yeah.
really believe that, Gregory? Because I don't know. You're speaking at that from a perspective of living in a country that's an English speaking country.
I'm
But you,
speaking.
man,
I'm speaking from an advantage of looking at how people are communicating across the world. So yes, I am fully aware that when I live in America, it may shade some of that. But I'm looking at young people in Africa. I'm looking at young people in China. I'm looking at young people throughout the world, and I see when they approach these communication platform, English is the language that they're using. So how deep it is, I'm not quite sure, but it seems to me that it is making English much more common and much more available and usable to just people throughout the world. That's how I see it.
Uh,
Christopher,
oh,
do
sorry.
you, yeah, go ahead, Joe. Go ahead, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask him a question. Do you know of any ethnic group in the country of Belize that doesn't understand and speak English?
Um, Not as I can think of because as well, not really any of that I can find because I know most in Belize, as much as we have different culture group, I think most of everybody can speak English and understand English in this case. So I can't really identify any, but it might be probably those that are from different cultures that are just new towards our ethnic groups in Belize. So probably, let me see, because is diverse, so it's very kind of hard to treat. And
Can I
if the
interject here?
Go ahead.
Um, I mean, as far as, to also add to Mr. Coe's question, I think in a whole, all those who are here in Belize primarily speak the English language, and that is because it's the common language amongst all. However, in certain minority groups, there are there are there are a few people who are very estranged to the language, and one of those groups are specifically immigrants that are just migrated to Belize. They're not commoners. They're not people who speak the language fluently. They're learning the language. So I would specifically say that most immigrants are not accustomed to the English language when they come to Belize. As far as our other diverse cultures, unless they're the older generation that have been here for many years within their secluded areas and don't come out of their areas, there are also people that don't speak the English language fluently. They may understand words here and there, and can navigate through communication. But I have encountered many that have been in Belize for over 50 years and yet still have not learned the language to communicate on a day-to-day basis. So there are quite a few that are probably still not accustomed to the language, except for the younger generation who are who had the privilege to go to school and learn the English language more proficiently. But we do have quite a handful of people in Belize still not speaking English as their first language, and some are having even trouble speaking Creole, which which I find should be our language of Belize. I mean, most of us
Or a
speak
go-to
Creole,
language, or a go-to language.
our go-to language, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Um,
and and I think someone was commenting that Creole is a language, and I kind of support that,
is.
because I think languages are based on are characterized by who spoke them. Could it be written? Could it be there's certain particulars, I don't know exactly what they all are, that
right.
defines what's a language. And I think
Language.
Creole can be written, it is documented and all that type of stuff. It has syntax and different
Christopher, do
things.
you think that the people of Belize are comfortable with English being the official language? And Creole, no, the matter of Creole, that is open for debate. I don't know that I'm
Bit.
going to be closed on that. But
Mhm.
as an official language, do you think that maybe, and we should require people to assimilate with the Belizean ness of that, with the culture that speaks English as opposed to, and even Creole, because I think that Creole for me is a variation of English,
English,
because
yes.
much of it are just English and broken English, but English, and in fact, I heard somebody say that the worse you talk Creole, the better you talk it. So,
Yeah.
and many people speak different. If you go to different parts of the country, the sweetest thing to me was in the States when a child come
Mhm.
up from Belize and they talk Creole. That just something sweet about it. But
Mhm.
the official language, though, I believe that we should have one language that we educate our children in, because this is a way, I mean, to get everybody on the same page, if you will.
Mhm.
You there with me? What you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, English as an official language, well, because like I mentioned, we were known to be English language because of the colonial frame. So that is the reason why Belize has been known as an English nation. But with that, because again now you have the Creole now, which has been spoken vast majority, but over time now, because if you compare the Creole that we're talking now, compared to like if you read the Creole the Creole Bible or maybe look at the Creole English dictionary, yeah, see, there's a there's a difference. And
Variation.
if you different variation, and then the ones that is in the Creole English dictionary and the Creole Bible, when you read like some might have the chance of understanding it, some not much because that is the actual proper Creole. But because we don't used to the way that we're English, that no, well, much people it became accepted over time, but I don't know to what extent that we accept it because it's something that we don't really talk about because we just know that yes, with our English language, and even though that yes, we do have other dialects and other languages as well that we do speak. So I think that is something needs to talk more. But
You
for now, I see as that yes, English will be and will be until further notice as a language
you
speaking
are
here
going
in Belize.
you are going to UB, is that it, Christopher?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you
Yes.
all write anything in Creole at UB? Oh no,
Mm,
you all get anything to read?
mm, unless if we come across something like maybe if in a research paper, and maybe if we do something maybe on the Creole language, that's the only time we might write something in Creole. But most of everything that we do write is in the standard English.
Christopher, you mentioned a couple of times about colonial origin of our country and stuff. What do you think about that, and how do you see that affecting us or helping us in our further development?
The way of colonialism, to me, I believe that it really doesn't serve a purpose, especially as Belize being a independent nation, and even so, because as an independent nation, we're entitled to have that rights to create what we call our own identity. But if you look at, for example, like I think one of the highlights that we highlight in school is the education system. How that our education system still has this tendency of having this colonial frame on how to teaching us that separates some minority or majority of the people in schools, which is something that we still see in today, but it's something that has been done so long that even that we talk about it is like we it's like there's nothing you could do about it. But the good thing about it is that, but even still with the whole idea about the constitutional reform, it was something that because many Belizeans haven't much read the constitution, and even though I love the initiative that they're doing about allowing our Belizeans to know the constitution, but it was something that should have been added to the curriculum in our education system long ago for us to understand these basic laws and so forth, especially to highlight the context and even the frameworks of how it was being presented as Belizeans.
Have you
Is it
read the
But
Constitution?
however,
is
yes,
it
I
being
do.
incorporated? Is it incorporated now into the curriculum? Is it now being taught in you at UB? As far as you know,
It is. It has well. It has been talked about much, yes, but not. I will say probably it has already started because when the whole idea about the whole constitutional should be added to the curriculum for us, it has been widely debated, and I like that the UB we had like different forums with the constitution, and the idea about us even try to educate more about it has become a thing, especially with the history program. Yes, it has been a great thing, but however, it's just the students' interest in willing to learn it because nowadays days, it's hard for much younger people like myself to pick up something like a constitution book or something to read, but any other stuff we're willing to read. But I believe the importance of reading the constitution
What are they willing
is
to What are they willing to read against versus the Constitution?
Well, most of us into, adolescent literatures, probably mangas or anything written by written on the media mostly.
I
That's
see.
how I would say.
Yeah. How do you
Mm.
feel about the change of street names? Speaking of the colonial system there and the legacy of it, do you think they should change all those names like Albert Street, Regent Street, etc., etc., which reflects a colonial past?
Um, Changing of street for me personally, I don't see any quite benefit in changing like streets like those because these are streets that we kind of grew up knowing about and something that we already accepted is like street names. We don't really see much of a problem with it because it's something has been put there as something historical, so we just look at it and we accept it because
What do you think of the 10th of September?
that has been one of well the 10th of September has been one of the it's been one of the biggest thing ever discussed in UB because we grew up knowing the 10th, the fact that, you know, 10th was, yeah, the BMN defeated Spaniards, the BMN shoulder to shoulder with the Africans that were in Belize. That's, we go that, and it was written down so forth. But I remember when my professor, Mr. Zib, bring up the idea, like counter argues it with other, it became something that we kind like, even us as history students, we tend to try to look at it from different lens now with this newer sources that, maybe the battle didn't happen and it was just a thing, but yet because we have
The
celebrated
battle
for
didn't
so
happen
long,
and what? The battle didn't happen and what?
happened. The fact that the battle didn't happen and it was just a way to bring the whole Belizeans together and to celebrate something
You
that is
guys don't read history? Mr. Zib, who is Mr. Zib? He doesn't read history?
no, Mr.
Because
Zib is our
it's
history teacher.
documented. No, I know. Where is he from? Is he from Belize?
Yes, he's from Belize. Yes.
I see. Well, the battle of St. George's Key is well documented. I mean, we could argue many things about it, but it's recorded in both British and Spanish archives, and it's being told to us through our stories from our ancestors. So oral history, right?
It's oral
Christopher,
history.
did you in the class? Did you have many who objected to the narrative? Or were they more on the side of saying yes, this is a part of our history, or were there more who questioned whether this was real or not?
Well, when they asked the question about the 10th thing is at first we said that yes, it's something that is part of our history, but when they think when they when they tell us about the different version from it now, it puts us in a question because the thing is, like, for example, like for the tent has been celebrated for so long. It has been there are sources that written about it, yes, that says about the tent and so forth, and we all grew up with that narrative. But for the fact that something new come out about it to disagree about the whole thing just puts us like in our
You're
because
not
again
sure of it.
history.
But what is
Yeah.
disagreeable? That's what I want to know. What evidence is there to disagree that the 10th of September didn't happen versus what has already been documented? In your
The
in your in the instructions that you've gathered, that's what I was asking.
yeah,
Mhm.
because the thing is sometimes like one of the rules as history in our history department we try to look beyond the context of what has been presented to us. We dive in depth in the sources. We try to find out why they wrote it, how they wrote it, and the meaning behind what they're written. That is one of the key components that we learn in history that allows us to get a more broader understanding. Because we try to make history objective, but history will remain subjective because we all have our, we all have our views towards certain things, and which is not bad, because we can say this happened, others could say that happened, but it's important.
But if somebody is saying something happened that there's no document to support it, then if your history is relying on history, then there's only one conclusion, right? I mean, history could be tainted, and the narrative could be such, but unless you find those things and then you have to make a decision about what is the truth, right?
True.
Then there's nothing, because I've not seen any credible information ever to say that the Battle of St. George's Key didn't happen. To the degree of what happened, lately we find out that things may have been, my whole thinking on it was that something happened, it didn't quite happen as they said it happened, and we learned that probably they just fired some shells and there was some standoff, but then later on you learn that probably some people lost their lives in it. I don't know if from what I've heard, I haven't heard that any of the Belize people or British people or Baymen or slaves had lost their lives, but there were indications that I've read in past that showed that some Spaniards may have drowned or such, or may have been injured and lost their lives in the battle, So you're a very articulate young man, and you're doing a great job representing yourself and your university. And I really thank you for coming on and just giving us this presentation. I mean, there are other things other than the Battle of St. George's Keys, and Deetra mentioned it. If you guys are being taught about who stood up to first make the defense of the colony, if you're taught that type of history, the Flowers Bank crew. I think it was 13th of June that you always report, Mr. Chairman. Was that the date?
1st of June.
1st of June.
June 1st,
yeah.
Fourth day. Which I think should be celebrated as a holiday, by the way, because that was as major, as important, if not more important, than even the battle. Because while there are different conflicting reports as such about that battle, we know that on that date they gathered, they had a public meeting, they decided whether to fight or flight. And of course, we the decision which was swayed by the 14 free men that came down from Flowers Bank. You heard of this Flowers Bank 14, and cast their vote, which was say, well, we're going to stand and fight. And I think that itself was a show of courage that should be celebrated, regardless of what happens after that, no? But so
that would be a debate, though. As much as yes, in a historical event, many people believe that yes, it should be a holiday, but again, that will have to be a debate and an agreement between us as the history department and the government, because holidays only be granted. Like, for example, if you look at holidays like George Price Day and so forth, that is something that has been agreed because based on how significant these events is. But for something like that, probably it should.
Would you say that's significant? This is significant.
Significant.
And I don't know. The holiday is declared by the government, and then everybody falls in line. So I don't think there's any debate actually about whether it's going to be or not. That's a decision, and it's done. No, maybe they should have a referendum, a debate, just to see which ones we're going to celebrate. Well, which do you celebrate more, the 21st or the 10th?
The 21st. I was 21st because well, when I growing up, it was the 10th. From small, it was the 10th. And 21st as well. But as you can see now, the 10th, no, because when the idea came about, with the 10th, we see the shift change because they view 10th as a way of celebrating colonialism, while 21st celebrated belief and how you can.
Well, how do you come to that? No, you can't run past that like that. I don't think people.
Because sometimes that's all right.
We're not celebrating colonialism. No, I don't think so. So just for the record, no, you can't. If you drop
But
that and run with that, we have to accept that. Well, we agree to that. I don't. I don't think we
I
celebrate
know, but
colonialism. We celebrate an
it's just
event.
But you
Mhm.
know what? I like the way he speaks because he's speaking from the perspective of something that we need to cure.
Yep. Because if you look at it, at first, like I mentioned, tent was something big in Belize City. Both
Yes.
political parties attended the tent ceremony.
Yes.
But if you notice now, ever since the pandemic, it became very divided, and we can see that the whole ideology starts to drop because why one party in favor of this event and then the next one favor in that event? You could see the division because the People's United Party more into the 21st,
Mhm.
and the United Democratic Party more favor for the 10th, and we can
I don't
see.
know if that is true that they favor. I think they favor the tent. They do see significance to the tent, but I think that most people now have recognized and have acknowledged our independence and is very
Yeah,
proud of our
yeah, proud of.
independence. Yeah, yeah. But the
But
history of the country, the founding and the birthing of the country is what happened on the 10th. So
Somebody,
It is
yeah.
it is clear that our children of today are not having the core history, even at a high school level and now at a university level where the 10th and the 21st is concerned. I'll give a comparison.
mhm,
So by the time I was in high school, I knew more about American history than I did by the in the years I was in Belize, and I realized that America, in they teach their children very young, at a very young age, why America is and how America became. And Belize, they don't teach as in depth their children, and I think this is where we're lacking. We're not teaching our children very young who we are at a very young age in history. And if we wait until we become adults to read and research, we're never going to learn who we are as a nation, and
mhm.
be able to defend the nation amongst other nations in the future. We're having this conversation, and it's clear that we need to learn more, because like I said, even when I left Belize, one of the biggest things, I never knew that we had slaves in Belize. I learned that we had slaves as an adult, and it was very shocking to me. And you know why it was shocking? Because I was never taught we had slaves. Number two, identity. When it came to identity, I always was thought I was Creole. And again, not that, and I never knew, I never knew where the Creole people came from until I was an adult. So if we don't start to implement these things early in our school curriculum to teach our kids, we're not going to be on the same level field to defend our nation in the future, especially in just amicable conversations like we're having tonight. There's
Yeah, that's why.
we're
Yes.
lacking we're lacking instruction in teaching our kids about our core history.
Yeah, that's why thing is that in Belize, that's why we try our best to offer the history of our nation. But the problem that we're facing is the interest because, like for example, at the University of Belize, history is, especially the bachelor's program, is not really big. It's a small handful. So like the most you might get in our history class will be like 6, 7 students per se.
Wow.
so it's not mandatory
Oh.
to take history, that one optional class.
The only history that we put as mandatory is the introduction to Belizean history, which everyone, where we all, where everyone should do it because it's something that we see as an important. So only the introduction to Belizean history that is offered as a mandatory history class, at
Yeah.
least, you know.
I
You know,
don't know if
I,
go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
I find it somewhat pathetic for the University of Belize, which I was there from the founding of it. And when it was first founded, I was very, very much supportive of it, along with the first uh, president of the school, because we really thought that this was the opportunity to bring something more relevant to the people of Belize. And history was one of them. I know to hear after so long, you all don't even seem to know about the history of the Battle of St. George's Key. Now, whether you want to give glory to it, whether you want to criticize it, but the truth about it, I think you all should know the facts about the battle. And it's also pathetic that you don't even know your constitution. Now, I don't know what age you are, but are you a voter? Have you registered to vote?
Yes, I'm a voter. Yes.
So how can you all vote and you don't know your constitution? So what you're voting for?
Thing is, not much of the young people in Belize on a whole don't really register to vote. There's only a few that is registered, but it's not like the vast majority, because here in Belize, the most population believe is under 35, which means we have a lot of younger folks. But in terms of the registration in young people, it's just like a average handful, because like when it comes to election time, like the recent municipal election, not much young people voted because they don't see the benefits of it. They just see that it's the same cycle over and over. But one of the things that I have been telling young people, that it's important to be part of the voting process, but at the same time it's important as well that we understand everything. And you know, the fact that even though our curriculums don't really have a thing to like prepare us, like, okay, who will vote, this is just something that we just go based on what what is been said, heard, and so forth. We maybe look it up, search it up, and then we just make the judgment based on what it is.
But Christopher, sorry to be, but
Mhm.
don't you think this is not an indictment of our young people? I think this is an indictment of the university. How can you tell me these young people are not interested in their politics? They're not interested in how we are being governed. When in fact, the university has a responsibility to try to instill that interest in them. So how can, if they're not even interested in voting or to register, then how can you expect to be a part of a society where we're supposed to be living as civilized people and at least driven by the collective belonging?
Yeah,
So
I know you said,
doesn't-
Mr. Coe, it's an indictment of the university, but I think it's an indictment more for entire governing structure, because they do not want the interests of the young people, because we saw what happened when they had Belize Technical College, how the rise up started in that organization, and since then, every government, both parties, have done everything they can to suppress any action at the university levels and the levels that would make those type of impressional changes. So
Yes.
they put the leadership in there that suits them best to retard whatever action would promote young people activity and involvement.
But Mr. Christopher, I really appreciate your being on the show, and I want to get you engaged. So don't take it that I'm trying to in any way hoodwink you.
No.
But let
No,
me say
that's
this
right.
to you. I know your family very well. Trust me, I know them very well. No, let me say this to you.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Morrison said it's not an indictment of the university,
Mhm.
and it is an indictment of the government. But if you want us to be so circumspect and all-encompassing, I think it's an indictment of all of us.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So I would say this to stimulate your interest. When I was at the HJC, we didn't have UB then.
Mhm.
Nobody could have told us that we did not have interest in politics, in the Constitution, which didn't come till after we left school, I must say. The truth about it,
Mhm.
why is it that it's an indictment and the government and the university, etc. When in fact, the government is not a group of people separate from us. That we elect them.
And we become them.
So then it's an indictment of us if we want to go deeper. Don't you
Yes.
think so?
Mhm.
I mean, let's have a little argument on it. Don't you think it's an indictment of all of us?
Yeah, it's a deadline because, for example, we look at certain issues and we, as Belizeans, we know that is a problem, but there's this there's this fear that I see that is hard because it's like we know the issue. The problem is that this fear is that it's just a generalization that, oh, if we tell them this issue, it's just going to be ignored. And one of the things, like I think one of the projects I'm working on is look at the 2005 unrest that took place in the capital and also in Belize City. Like that was one of the projects I'm working on. Look at how that unrest will only be that unrest where we see a whole community. Like if you look at that, this was like a whole community coming together, working together. But looking at that now from today's now, the support among each others in try to have that unity collab about the issues and so forth is just dropped because well of the fear and that and the and the way how the system divided us, because who benefit more, they don't really care. But the ones where just get left under the grave, well, that is just that that issue. So it do start with us, but at the same time, it's how we come together, how we put our differences aside and say, you know what, we all want this for our country. We all want to come together and so forth. But
Could
it's just
I,
a matter.
but I come back up, please. I will let you alone today. That's sadly. But let me ask you another question.
Mhm.
Do you think it's because of the lack of teaching us relevant history why you are thinking this way? Let me give you an example. The people that started the struggle to decolonize this country, they never had the opportunity to even go to secondary school. They were primary school graduates. No, they decided to put aside fear and take up the struggle to decolonize this country. And they wasn't afraid of the British. So those were the primary school graduates. And you are telling me today, no, that's about a fear. A fear for what? Is it a real fear or imaginary fear? Let's use history. Who started party politics in this country? Who started the revolution to throw off the shackles of colonialism? There were no university graduates that were around. Those were Creole, Mestizo, or whatever they are, but they were brave. And they were
brave, yeah.
the British Empire to free us of that colonialism. Why today when people are afraid?
I just wanted to ask, what does Christopher think are some of the greatest fear of young people now, falling on your point, Mr. Cowie? Do you see? I mean, it could be political, it could be gang. If you say gang, then I want you to be careful with what you say. But just what are the fears of young people as they move into their own in this new Belize?
Well, maybe I can. All right. So I'll just look at it at two lens. So me as a young person, but also working as a public officer, I would say, as a young person working with government or so forth, our biggest fear is about the outcome or the victimization from the government. Well, the people, they're afraid because as much as we do have the free will power to do so, but they're afraid because it seems like if they try to outright, they feel like, they're entitled to some kind of, I don't know, some punishment, or probably they fear about losing whatever. But one of the things,
This is what you think is young people's fear, that they're fear of political victimization. Is that the fear that young people walk around with?
most, I will say, but others is just the fact that, well, it's just like this loophole cycle that, people say, well, it's the same thing over and over because, you know, so let's say, for example, let's say young people, we all decided that, all right, one day we all will come together, we will stand up to what we right, maybe overthrow everything, and then
Overthrow
let's
everything? What does
say,
that mean?
And
What
then
does
what?
overthrow everything means?
but then let's say no,
Christopher, what does
we try
overthrow everything means? You said they'll overthrow everything. What does that mean?
let's say they stand up for the rights and try to claim or try to take over the system.
Mhm.
Let's say something like that. And let's say, who they will want to put that will lead, because normally you want to have a leader who will have leadership components or leadership elements like integrity, dedication, and so forth. And especially if I was someone to enter the political arena, integrity plays a crucial role because, when you get in and you have that power, the wealth, all of that might driven from the purpose of you entering into it for the purpose, like your purpose is to serve the people, transform the nation, have that community unity amongst each other. We all work hand to hand, but it just depends on how strong you are, I would say, in moral wise and so forth, because having too much wealth and power can drive you away. And if we don't know how to have that strong integrity, it's just like a consistency loophole of the same issues and over.
Can I follow up with a question? I think Mr. Morrison asked you a very relevant question.
Yeah.
Would you prefer the change to come through the ballots or the bullets? Do you want to take it through the ballots or the bullets?
I'll say the ballots.
That's right. So why not use it?
And
As a student of history, you have the opportunity
to
get
change,
the ballot after those who struggled to get it for you. Now, why is it now you would want to take over from where they left off? They fought for adult suffrage. Your forefathers fought to get that for you. So why don't you use it? Rather than wanting to revert to the bullets. Use the ballots as a student of history.
Tell me something, Christopher. How do you feel about our two-party system in Belize? Should we have more parties? Would you consider maybe a one party where maybe even like a authoritarian government? What do you see as an ideal type of government for us here in Belize?
Well, in Belize, and we go by either red or blue, which is the two dominant, and from their history they have paved many things leading towards independence and onwards. Third party in Belize is just a little handful, because we have seen many third parties form, try to make a difference here, but the issues with third parties that I see a lot is the fact that there are people who are willing to work, but they're just not financially supported. While the two dominant ones, they have everything that they needed prepared, and it became so idealized that it's hard for some Belizeans to divert, because we don't used to red and blue being the two dominant, and no matter how much, like for example, let's say one of us decides to run for third party that knows us very well, it'll be very hard, because they because the fact is that if you're not financially supported, even though you have the characteristics of bringing change to the table, is just it is because that's how it has been it has been put in place, because it's something that has been even going forward, because if it's not the finance, then you
Well,
know.
Christopher, let me follow up on the question that Mr. the chairman asked you.
Yeah.
Is it about two parties, three parties, four parties? Is it about us, the people? Why is it that we believe that that is the way the two parties were and have been on this? Why is it not about us? Because the party is only what the sum of us.
I know.
Yeah. So if it's
I
some of us, don't you think the change must come first? But when we look in the mirror, then we look
Mhm,
at ourselves, then we change others.
mhm. Because one of the things I've been telling even some of my younger peeps is that the party is just a banner. Is the people who is carrying this political banner is the one that we must consider, because it's those who makes up the party that makes the betterment for a nation. Because if you want someone who is willing to work for the people, serve for the people, you would vote on the individual. But because of the way it has been set in place, that is red and blue, because maybe it could be a good person, could be on one party, or either either, but it's just a matter of how society decides to go with, because they might go with the person maybe that has more money than the one that maybe don't have the money but willing to work for the people. It's all about that. Or
What do
maybe
you think? What I was going to say, what do you think is the number one constitutional reform as we're in this period right now that would benefit young people, if there is such a?
But I think,
um
Abraham, sorry to interrupt you. Do you say you know the Constitution? Did you read it? You know the Constitution? Because the question.
I take a view of the constitution.
Oh, okay, fine. Sorry,
A
I
view of
thought they didn't teach you all, or they don't know the
Yeah.
Constitution. Okay, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
but I was asking specifically if you think
because
there's something they could put in the Constitution that would be appealing to young people. Is there, if you have any knowledge of any such thing? That's what I was trying to find out. I know you
mm,
said you guys had reviewed it somewhat in school and had addressed some of
yeah.
the issues, but you didn't
Mhm,
go through it in details.
mhm. I think because the thing is, in our constitution, especially under the fundamentals of rights,
Mhm.
I think the problem is that because under the fundamental rights we have, like, the freedom of movement, freedom of piracy, and things like those under the fundamentals of right. I think it's just that it's just need to be strengthened more, because it's there for us, but then we look at it and say that, oh yes, our freedom of rights, our freedom of movement, our freedom to say this and that, but sometimes we try to think about where or not if we do have those rights to those things, because if we have the freedom of right and so forth, then why should we be afraid to exercise those rights?
Well, of course,
So
the rights, rights wouldn't be unconditional. I mean, it has to
no.
be some guidelines, no, some
Guidelines.
areas. How, as a young person, and you see the news from time to time, I would think, right, if not often. But how do you feel about living in Belize in the future? How do you see you in the future? Are you apprehensive, or are you confident that things are going to be all right?
In the future, it all depends of how things might play it out. But one of the visions I see in the future is that, as us younger generations, we will find some way in putting our differences aside and you will try, willing to come together and try work out certain things, because us young people, yes, we might be different, we might have our different views, but if we have the same one common goal, you know,
But
I believe.
honestly, though, Chris, isn't that more idealistic than realistic? Because you're saying that you might come together, but we're seeing a different picture. We see you guys killing out each other. We see things happening out there that's certainly not conducive to a better future. Aren't you a bit apprehensive in that? What if we don't pull it together? What if we don't get this together and move forward?
Well, one of my fears about that, like if we don't really come together, as much as yes, we have to look at, even though international events, like especially with the wars happening on the east and so forth, and most, like for example, oils and so forth, we rely on from them. We also rely on a lot of things, and I think the fact is that if we don't really find that common thing together and we just continue at the rate of eliminating each other slowly and slowly,
Mhm.
like one of my biggest fear of vision is to be, because if we look at Haiti, for example, Haiti has been at its worst ever since independence, after what the French really done to Haiti, and Belize to be under like Haiti's conditions won't be something, because I think Belize won't last long. I would say under that.
I would like to. I think you gave a very good answer there, Christopher. But could you allow me to come back to a point you made earlier, which was
Yeah.
very good? You said something earlier that I want to come back to. You mentioned about the fundamental rights in the Constitution, but you said something that is very, very important should be to all of us here. What you seem to have said just now was that yes, those rights are there, but you seem to have a fear, and I think it's a real fear, that if you apply the rights, you could be victimized. That's what I got from you, and that might be true. In other words, you had the freedom of association, and you choose to associate with a particular party. But if that party is not in power, then the other party will victimize you. And that is one of the things that I think you highlighted. I feel like it's kind of factual. And I'm not speaking again. When I talk of government, I'm talking in a generic sense, yeah? So I'm not here batting for either. I'm talking about the fundamental rights. That is what I find some young people have. That when they go to exercise the rights, they feel like they will be victimized. Even people,
Christopher, go ahead. Christopher, do you see a future in Belize, or are you planning maybe to go abroad sometime and either study or work?
Well, for me personally, because once I finish my bachelor's degree in history, one of my ideas is to study abroad in law, outside abroad, and then come back to Belize City, come back to my hometown Belize, and to do some work among the community more, and to push the agenda for leadership as well, and to change the ideologies that I'm seeing and observe a lot, and to empower many younger people, at the same time bring the long awaiting change that many people have been crying and yearning for years and years. So that is one of the things after university.
Yeah. What kind of shows do you watch? You watch a lot of TV?
Well, I don't really have TV, but I'm mostly on the media. Things I look up on is like current historical events. I even look at world news, like what is really happening around the world, follow up on these things and how these things impacted Belize on a whole. yeah, I even also revisit some of the histories of Belize way back and to compare it to now and to highlight what changes or what has remained the same or what has improved over time. So those are
You
like my interests.
you Google a lot. You use Google
Yes,
for
I use it.
research and thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Have you
Um,
watched his show, Christopher? Did you ever watch his show?
Hmm?
Did you ever watch this show, the same show you're on? Did you watch it? Were you a
Uh,
fan of you were looking at it?
mm, the sea smokes, I would
Yeah.
say.
Uh-huh.
I just get to find out about this, so like this is like first time I was here knowing about this, but
mm.
Well, thank you.
so
Thank you very much for joining
So
us this
I
why
evening.
did
hope
you
you I hope you watch it again for
why did
another
you come
day.
on the show, Christopher?
yeah.
Why did you come
Mm-hmm.
on the show? Why when they invite you? Why did you come?
Hmm?
Why did you come on the show? You weren't watching it before, right? You were watching Google
Yeah,
and other things.
things.
No. Tell me why you come on the show.
So what happened was that I was at my work and then I got a message from my professor saying that my contact was shared to someone that was wanted to talk about, history, politics and so on, and they give my name out and I was like, all right, sure, no problem, because it's something I'm something I really love to talk about. It's history and politics, like two things I like to talk about, and that's why I get on the show because show. But I really enjoy it too because it really I like discussions to highlight certain things at the same time, allow the viewers as well to think about some of these discussions and maybe willing to try engage and so forth because these discussions is what allows us to learn, understand at the same time, make a difference. So
Let me try to grab what Josh Gig is saying because it's that is the opinion is I'm all for the Creole identity within Belize, but I fear if we start disregarding the English language, and I want to be clear and separate the language from British English nationality, we will be doing so at our own peril. Now
Yeah,
that
sure.
brings us back to the language thing and whatnot. I think it supports Greg's point that English is the dominant across the
language.
globe.
Hmm.
I don't know that I share that perspective. I think that even in Belize, the, the Spanish has outnumbered now the Belize
Yes,
population, the Creole population of
population.
Belize.
The mestizo population is like over 50. I think it's 52 or 53% of Belize population. Creole
It's
is like at
20
20%.
something, 28 or 27. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what one is
It
right now.
went down because if you look at the context, because Belize at first it was actually a Creole dominated language, but now
Correct.
with the immigrants of the Spanish, it became so rising. So
Well, everybody's doing their own thing also because you got the
mhm,
Mennonites speaking their language.
language, yes.
What do you think about communal land rights and the Mayans? Do you think they ought to? Well, they went to court and whatnot, but how do you see it? What do you think about that?
Well, the thing is, we have to acknowledge and recognize that the Mayas were here before all of us here, and the fact that many of the lands that they have, especially like even areas that is among the Maya ruins, so for we have to take into consideration that these are their ancestral areas that they have been inhabited for like centuries ago, and the fact that the way how it was
Hope I don't lose you again. You go pan with it. Um,
uh,
here you
Yeah,
go.
we could hear you now.
okay, so but it's just the fact that as Belize starts to develop, the bringing in of the Africans, eventually established Creoles, and then the fact that when it comes to the districting part now of where each were as it is, that's how they were being set. But at the same time, as years goes by, you know, I see that, lands are being sold to foreigners and investments to the point that, because thing is like Belize, at first people say we don't have land, but Belize we do have land. It's just the fact that the way how land has been distributed, I think it's just been mismanaged. But in the Maya context, it's just the fact that, you know, that because I think the way how they say that in the constitution, everyone should have the rights of owning a land, which is, I think,
I
to
don't think
me,
the Constitution says that.
Yeah,
it
I don't
doesn't
know.
say it.
I don't know
It,
if
do-
it's
it
saying
doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. I know it doesn't says it, but I think maybe it should because
Maybe it should.
okay.
as
Okay.
Belize, as our Belizeans, we entitled.
Right. Right.
No,
Well,
when
well,
but
where are you
essential
entitled
lands,
to?
I think, yes, entitled.
Yeah.
But no, essential lands, I think that on a whole, because thing is like I understand that yes, especially like ancestral lands that has been inhabited by ancestors so long, I think by historical rights should belongs to them for their own purposes and not to be, you know, being exploited or being taken away for personal gain because there are some
So
lands.
how does that lined up against that land also remain so that they don't create a state within a state and create issues in terms of
Oh,
governance? Do you have a
mm,
thought on that? Have you thought about it to that extent?
mm.
If you haven't yet, that's fine. That's fine.
The way I look at it is because because when you just brought it up, it reminds me of like with the Mennonites, how they settled in areas like Spanish Coast and so forth. Yes, they own that area, they have their own way of governing and so forth, but they
Well,
I don't
living,
know
not
if they have.
not
I don't know
governing,
if they have a way of
yeah,
governing,
not
but
governing, living.
governing,
They have their
living,
lifestyle and whatnot. Yeah,
lifestyle and
governing
so
is
forth.
not a good choice. But go ahead. Yeah,
They
we get
church.
what you're saying.
hmm But I think that on a it's just that they just wanted that they I think it's that all cultures it's just that we just want to have is that we will respect the rules that is there. It's just that we just want that while we doing that in exchange we just preserve our own way of lifestyles within our own era. I think it's just the fact about like this agreement that you know because I think this goes to the fact that because if we're to look at it, you know Belize district, they speak the Creole and they do speak it often every day. Down south try to speak their own Garifuna language among each other. We see the Mayas, they too can do the same without have to worry about interference because it's their area. It's just that when it comes to like maybe going to the schools or government offices, we just have to respect the fact that that is just what they are. But once we're in our area, we just keep it to our own levels.
let me ask you a question. How does young people or yourself use platforms like ChatGPT, or do you use it?
Mm, some do, I would say. I'm not
You
sure
need
if
to also.
majority use it
You need to also. You need to jump
because
on it.
because the thing
Let me
is
ask.
the problem is that with ChatGPT. So
You
the
see, I
problem
said,
with ChatGPT is that with ChatGPT, like it is just like especially like at a university level is something that we don't try to use or it's not really much recommended because students might try to use ChatGPT to do everything, but for me, in my perspective, I might use it maybe as a way to how to do something by using examples. But in this generation, because with AI can do anything or everything, so they will rely on it on a lot of things. And to be it's good but bad at the same time. But I just believe that it's just how you use it that matters, you know.
I agree.
Deja has a question for you. Is there a sense of hopelessness or a sense of pride to be a Belizean youth these days? Do you feel pride in being Belizean, or do you figure, boy, this no look like yeah, turn out too
Mm.
good later?
Um. Well, if you ask me, I think many people are proud to be Belizeans because I think if we were to be anywhere else, you know, probably we might feel like face a lot of things. But with Belize, you know, is like a blessed nation. Like if you look at everything with Belize, we haven't have like a war, like big wars that we're going through. We're like a peaceful nation, you know. And that's what I like about it. Yes, we might have our ups and downs, but we don't really go through any extreme levels, which I think many of us Belizeans can look and appreciate, you know, about it.
Is Belize corrupt?
I would say it. I won't say Belize corrupt. I think it's just people. I think it's just the way of how the way our system has been placed on individuals corrupts the nation, or the mentality of the corruptness of try to be, or you know, not doing what is right corrupts.
Yeah.
You guys
I
ever
agree. I
discussed?
agree with you that Belize. I don't think Belize as a nation and as a country is corrupt. We have
Corrupt.
pockets of corruption that severely retards our development, and we need to manage those.
How,
Mhm.
I
how
suppose
do you
that
feel
I
about
suppose
the
that
diaspora? Uh, um, Christopher,
The
do you guys ever discuss it? The involvement of the diaspora in our affairs in Belize?
mhm. What
Because
happened is that with
go ahead.
yeah. All right. So when it comes to diasporas, one of the things I believe is that the diasporas, to me, I see it as something that I think needs to be discussed more in Belize because when Belizeans goes out abroad and they even become nationalized out abroad, I believe that they saw their flags and I think they just should be where they are because they leave the country in so far. They have, you
You
know,
sound like
no,
Mike
no,
there.
no,
Did Mike
no,
give you a
because
20?
no,
Did Mike
no,
slip you a $20 bill? Is there corruption
no.
going on?
you,
Hear me, hear me, hear me. No, but the thing
uh,
is that,
you're
but
raising
the thing
you're
is,
raising eyebrows. You're raising. But go ahead, Christopher.
no,
I like it.
no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. But you see, the thing is that because you've been so far away from Belize for so long,
Uh,
point, and to see you to try to come and well in Belize you know we have seen that foreigners do come and do associate with everything to us in our system. um it's been an some issue, but it's just something that has not been said a lot because because people people come in and we believe that our diasporas brothers and sisters might have it all, but then some might disagree about it because it's like they gone out, they left Belize for a better life, but we're not really sure the intentions of maybe that way. Maybe they just went out, try to do something better, and then they might come back to do something better for Belize, or they just go try will cut it and just forget their whole IW. It just depends on the motives about the diaspora. Just depends on the motives. Like, what's your intention of leaving Belize? Like, our intention is to come back to help Belize moving forward, or you just leaving the country permanently and then just try use Belize as a escape route, but it's just the motives.
we
And this
get
is
substantial remittances, right, from abroad,
yes,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, there are a lot of people abroad who are still involved in
Hmm.
Belize. So,
Yep.
no, Gregory, there's no money slipped over there, but
Okay,
yeah,
very cool.
it's
I was
interesting
just wondering if
perspective.
that was if his Zelle went up with $20 or something like that.
Yeah,
That's
right,
all.
right.
But Christopher,
That's Zell.
as
That
a
Zell
student,
number worked
But,
Christopher,
well,
as a
man.
mhm.
student of history,
but the thing is
as
with
a student of
the
history,
but
Christopher. Oh, sorry.
so yeah.
So I
Because
wanted
the
to
thing is
ask.
like because the thing
I
is if you
was,
look at the quick thing, this so when it comes to like the migration, because I remember many had to leave for better opportunity because Belize on a whole at first and even in other areas, you know, there was not much
Opportunity.
development or anything, yes, for us. And it was even hard because especially like, you know, when it comes to like maybe in doctorate's degree, nursing or so far that, you know, we don't have the level or advanced technology compared to like other nations, which is something that we have to recognize and understand that yes, like if it's something to that we have to leave to get the opportunity for combat help, that is something I agree on, which is about it. But at the same time, yes, the remittance do plays a role, but at the same time, it's just how the remittance has been used. Because, for example, some remittance might be used for like the donations that Belize has been received. You know, sometimes you have to question where all of that went into, especially when it comes to financial aids.
But that's
Are
not the
there
that's
good?
not the that's not the
but
the cause of the diaspora, how you use it. Once we send it, we don't have any control over it, right? We gift it
Yeah,
to our family, we gift it to
gifted
organizations
different,
and so forth. And how they use it properly or improperly is totally
properly.
up to the people, right?
Where they
I,
buy
I,
bad
It's up
man
to the
or
people.
real.
Yeah. Mhm.
I would like to get a
Mhm.
point here, Christopher, for you, especially
Mhm.
as a student of history. I don't think that there are many Belizeans in America now that could be older than me. That to tell you how old I am. And I have
Mhm.
no doubt in my mind that the majority of them, and I have been here for over 4 schools, I'm telling you, the majority of our Belizeans who went to
Mhm.
America left because of the economic reasons. They went indeed
Mhm.
for what they thought would have been a better life. And I think they all left here with love for this country and sincerity. But if you live in the
Exactly.
time that I lived in, I understand why they went. And we must continue to see our people in America as our own, that they are part of us. And they never left here because they may
Mhm.
hate. They never left here out of lack of patriotism because there was no independence yet anyhow.
Mhm.
Evidently, things were not that good in this country. The metropolitan power that sat in
Now,
London
now you
was
get
really
your amount.
for the metropolitan people. So our people who left this country obviously went for more economic reasons, for a better
You
way. And
you get
we must continue to thank them for what they have done for this country in those same remittances, those barrels and those
you
$20.
get your amount and you get yours in the US. Good move,
Mhm.
Greg. And I know I'm still asleep there.
No, Mr.
But
Chair, I don't want it to I want you to know that if you look at the
Mhm.
remittance that come to this country,
yeah.
what percentage is it? But
Yeah, no, but
tell
Christopher,
me,
It's probably about 20% of our GDP.
Yeah, 20% of GDP.
I,
Yup.
I have proposed, Christopher, that maybe we ought to have a new constituency. Instead of 31, we have 32. One being for the diaspora, and let them vote and elect their own representative to represent them, and maybe sit in parliament to look out for the rights of those in the diaspora. You any thoughts on that? Could that maybe be a part of the solution?
Hey, Christopher, I already think we just
That,
left them, okay?
I think that would be something interesting, like a representative for the diaspora. But normally, I will see like the ambassador will be, but for have like a representative to be actually in the house that represent the diasporas, that would
See,
sound like a good
Christopher
idea.
is
But that will have to be, but it will be depends on how Belizeans and even the government views it. Because yes, we do have a lot of Belizeans abroad, and
Substantial amount.
probably some a substantial amount. Some might not know what is happening there, or maybe some do follow up. And I believe that maybe a representative to represent them and even
But they're still
inform them.
Belizeans. They're
I'll
still
tell you.
That's
Belizeans.
the
Yeah,
Belizeans.
I'll tell you
Mhm.
something. Belizean people in Belize, so many people I talk to tune in to Channel 7 or
Mhm.
whatever the local radio newscast is in
Radio.
Belize
Mhm.
almost once a week to hear about what's happening in Belize, particularly if there's some event news going on. And I'm telling you, and this is just across the board of
Mhm.
people I've encountered. So they are very much involved in the affairs of Belize, in the concern and in the and hope for the development. And many of them, including myself, they hope for a day when we would retire and be able to return to a peaceful country. Sometimes it doesn't seem as peaceful as it should be. And
Glory.
sometimes we concern
Mhm.
ourselves about the healthcare because by the time we get to return, we are at the age where healthcare becomes a real concern for many people. So, but the interest and
Yeah.
the desire and the
Mhm.
loyalty, I'll tell you, is there
You know
for
what's
Belizeans.
interesting, and that's a good point, Gregory, because there are people over there who watch
Mhm.
news of Belize more than Belizeans do
Yeah,
at home.
yeah.
And in fact, I have had people call me from
True.
abroad and ask me, did you hear about that? Have you seen that?" And I'm like, ho, let me go check on that. And
Yeah.
they get the news
Mhm.
sometimes ahead of us. So we have a close relationship.
It
Make
has
no
been, there's
mistake.
a 10 line,
True.
Christopher,
Mhm.
just to give
Yeah.
you a little, um, an interesting perspective on what you said. I understand what you said and I admire you for voicing your opinion. But as an example to what you said, I didn't leave Belize for economic reasons. I came here, I left Belize as a child. I had no choice. I followed my parents where my parents went. So there was no there. So I also want you to know that majority of my generation that are here in America did not come to America because we chose to come to America, but we still love Belize. And I am dearly in love with Belize.
But
Um,
Nisha,
but what I'm saying is, I don't want him to have a negative perspective that all the lesions left and then, and forgot about Belize. Because even the
Mhm.
younger children that came to
No, that is
America,
just the lens that has been.
right? But that's what I'm trying to, what I'm trying to,
It's
I'm trying,
just.
but
what I'm trying to say is,
Mhm.
that that for those and for viewers out there, we did not all of us left on our own and not all of us left, for the
but the
same reason.
majority did.
Oh.
I mean, even the
But
children.
we still love
I
Belize.
understand the children who didn't and had to follow their parents. We understand that. And then there are
Yeah.
those who went, and
Mhm.
after they get out of hand, their parents sent them back home. And then that's what has caused a lot
Oh,
of the problems.
now you want to talk about the
You
bad
Hey.
one there.
no, but it has been an influence on some of the children out
It
there. So,
has, it has.
but we can't hide from it.
Mhm.
It's
It's
a
true.
reality,
Yeah,
you know.
but
It
I
is.
just
But
want to
again, it's
mention
just
something quickly
it.
too.
it
Just 1 second.
Mhm.
You know, some young people that are of Belizean heritage, sometimes the kids are not even Belizeans in terms of born there, right? But they are more proud, and they are the ones that ride around in their car with a flag of Belize, even when I don't have a flag of Belize hanging from
So
my
true.
Yep.
windshield,
Yeah,
not
there are
from
those.
True.
my
Yeah.
rear view
Mhm.
mirror. You know, so there's something going on
Mhm.
that I can't quite nail about it, but people from Belize
I
does
because
see a
it's.
great sense
Mhm.
of patriotism and loyalty and love for the
I
country.
think it has grown. It has grown more than it did, and maybe
Did
because
yes.
a lot of people get legalized when they weren't
Probably so
before.
too. Yeah, yeah.
Probably
Gone
so.
through the back
Mhm.
and ride no Belize flag on your back. You know what I'm saying? So,
You
Yeah.
see, the
but
thing is, if you look at Judge Price, because one of the thing with Judge Price, like it doesn't matter who you, as long as you're on Belizean soil. One of the things he says, on Belizean soil, you know,
You gonna make Mr.
you're
Cowie
part.
Michael so happy. Quote Judge Price. Go ahead. Go
listen,
ahead.
I see the man ears prick up like you have to understand something. don't speak good about George Price or bad about Philip Wilson. All right, you will go find that. You will go find that.
No. Both matter. I love the both of them. Both of them have really contributed a lot to Belize today. As much as Belize centers around George Price, but Philip Wilson plays a role too.
No, tell
That
me say what you were going to say originally. I'm sorry to have break you. I just
no,
had to get
because
my
there's a scene with George Price, right? That once people that are aliens to our nations, the fact that you're on Belize soil, you should be proud and being a Belize soil. Even Lad Raven, like maybe you're not the vocal, but you have the spirit of the soul, of Belize. But the thing is, when it comes to diasporas, though, they always show that love and vocal, and with Belize being, one of the best. Well, we are the best. I would say we are always the best in terms of how we do things in Central America. The outside even shows the love for us. A lot of things that we have that other nations look to us, and something that us as Belizeans we always and should always be proud of, because of how we set our examples despite the little minor issues that we will have to once again have to come together, and we have to decide on how we can correct those, because it's
My
for
God,
we want.
I'm happy to hear you refer to them as minor, because there are some issues that really aren't minor. I
Minor,
mean,
yes,
particularly the crime, the
the
corruption.
crime.
These things aren't minor at all. So,
Yeah.
did you see the story about the Bishop Clancy, name like you actually, Christopher Clancy? Did you see that story where he left in 2017, I believe, something like that, and then now he has come back to resign. Did you see it?
Resign. Yes, I did see it. Yes,
Uh-huh.
I did see it.
And did you hear what that? Well, Jews dug it up, and he got something where the guy a statement that he made. And let me read the statement for you. For 35 years, the people of Belize have elected numerous governments to act on our behalf and rule the nation. Sometimes, God of justice, we have used our sovereign power to steal from the poor and the powerless. Those in power have fixed the scales and used the system to personal advantage, ultimately cheating the nation of its limited resources for the gain of a few. How do you feel about that? And should that have been enough to cause him to leave?
Well, I guess based on the whole entire statement, the fact that they elected people, you know, for their personal views and so forth. I think to leave because of something like that, to me, it actually depends on whether or not the unfairness of the act is something that, because the thing is, the way how I see it, right? Because if I see or observing the fact that there's a corrupt process of something that's been going on, and because of that, I want to resign about it, because I think maybe it just depends on how it has been seen, but I think in a scenario like that, I think probably it could have been maybe done in a way, probably without him have to resign from it, because if you witness all these things and maybe you just get to a point that maybe you just get tired of it.
Well, as a priest, did he have an obligation to speak on it, you think? Or did he have a right to
I
speak on it?
I believe I believe he has a right to speak on it, because if it's something that you have been seeing and maybe it's something that people should know, probably you can
Yeah.
speak it
But
out. But
was he accusing any specific government, or was this
Well,
just a
well,
general commentary?
he obviously said it under the UDP government, and the then prime minister objected to him saying it, and it seems that the resign, another word, because he resigned now officially, but he was basically sent away, and he had to leave the country,
Oh,
and that's what it seemed to happen. That story I have to look into, Greg, because
You know
okay.
what?
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, but you
yes,
know
ma'am.
what's interesting to me, that when it's convenient for the governments or administrations and Belize, the clergy or the religious groups are their best friends, and and when it's not convenient,
Yeah.
they make they make themselves disappear,
And then
um,
the lay people too.
until right. So this should be a eye-opening situation for all Belizeans. Do
Yeah.
we continue do we continue to rely on the clergy? One, I mean, we all go to school by religious preferences in Belize. There are
Mhm.
more religious schools in Belize than there are public governmental schools.
I
And they
don't think
serve
there
a
are
good
any.
purpose. But it serve a good purpose, though. Don't you think?
Right. What I'm saying
What
is,
serves a good
if we
purpose,
start
Mr.
The
Chairman?
separating.
schools, the schools.
No, the
Okay.
school serves a good purpose. I'm not denying that.
Uh,
What I'm
uh,
saying is, where do we draw the line between having religious groups and religious
do you
clergies
think that
with
you
with
think
the
the bishops
government?
should not have spoken about those issues? Is that what you're
I
saying? It was not
No,
his
I mean,
place.
I think he had the reason why I think he spoke up is because he also has a place, on the board to speak. If these administrations, whether regardless of parties, have this type of association with clergy, of course of course he's going to have an opinion. You cannot tell me any man out there without an opinion, whether they believe in God or they don't. Everyone
Some
has
just
an
all speak it,
opinion.
right? Right. Some just
Exactly.
all speak it.
So I don't see, I mean, in other words, he doesn't have freedom of speech either,
Well, that's it. Yeah,
even as a man.
yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
I
I think.
just think, I just think at some point we have to separate, either we're going to rely on the clergy to support government and the systems, and have them have a seat at the table, and have their own opinions voiced, is which I think Mr. Clancy did, or we go independent, and not have them at the seated table. But if we continue to rely on the clergy to continue to support different political parties and administrations, then yes, we will have an opinion,
All
and
right,
they may
Joe.
not like the opinion.
You were saying, Joe?
Mhm.
I can't even remember what it is now.
Yeah.
Well, you see, the thing is, the
I,
problem,
I
That's
because
understand.
because
like,
Lisa just went on and on and on.
mhm,
I think I wanted
like,
to.
I'm just messing with you.
all right, just to revive it, just to touch on that particular. So, I do electives right now in literature, and we're reading like a bushfire. It's an interesting book basically that looks on the violence in Belize City from 2010. One of the issues going on, and one of the things that we have talked about, I think, in the class was on like the power struggles with the government and with the churches, because you know government rely on churches on management and finance. Church
Mhm.
as well rely on government as well for the same thing. But if we look at it in a historical sense, like churches produces 30% of what it is maintaining everything and so forth, doing whatever they can do, and government with the 70% assistance as best as possible. But yes, but with the power struggle between the two of them is the biggest concerns, because with that power struggle amongst each other, especially, all right, policies or so forth governing not only both sides but also towards the students as well.
Yeah, we lose you
We lost
again.
him.
If,
Well,
Should there?
I was gonna say our
tell me,
parochial
can you
Lisa
tell me
meant that
what is it that they are struggling for? Why you say there's a power struggle between the government and the churches?
And the
What
church,
is
yes,
what is
because
struggling for?
I
Control
think
and
it's,
control?
No, I'm asking
yeah,
if you
I
said
think
that
it's,
there's a power struggle.
yes, there's, one of the things that we read in the book, that there's a power struggle amongst the church and and the government, because
Is it
you
struggling
know,
for what? Struggling for what? Power for what?
I believe it's just how things should operate or manage, because government wants
Influence
church
over
to
the
op-
people, maybe influence over
yeah.
the people.
That's always the case,
Mhm.
right? That's all.
Yeah. But
Lisa made a
should there be a distinct difference between church and state? What do you think? Or
doesn't
should they work
exist.
together?
It doesn't exist. It does not exist. It does not exist in America. It does not, and worse, it does not exist in Belize. They're all one.
Mhm. Yes, they're one.
You think so? I don't think the church has
Of
any
course
power
they are.
anymore.
Of course
Nah,
they are. Of
the
course
church
they
not
are.
got power again, man.
Yes, man.
gentlemen,
Yes. yes.
gentlemen, let me address my our colleague.
What happened to the what happened to
Christopher,
the what happened to the marijuana law? What happened to
let
any
me say,
law that comes up against that the church have opposition to?
let
Don't
me
tell
see
me
if
it
I could
doesn't
bring some
exist.
clarity. I know I am not a political. I'm not a political scientist, but I'm a political practitioner. Yeah. I'm not a scholar of politics, but I'm a practitioner, and I'm gonna tell you what I mean by it. Now, when I want to say something to you, it's not a struggle between a government and a church, or a struggle between the government and the bar association or the accounting association. There's no such thing as a struggle between them. In a democracy, the people has the power, and through the ballots, they delegate authority to these people to do the job for them. So let us get it clear in our minds, and particularly I say this to you because you look quite, to me, promising to be a new leader for this country. But we need to begin to understand there's no such thing as a struggle. That's suggesting to me as if though that there's a dictatorship which we are trying to bring down. But we go to the polls, we just gone to the polls the 6th of March and we voted.
Who did they voted for, Mr. Cowie?
Huh?
But you
Who
see,
did
but
they
the thing is,
voted
if you look,
for?
Who what?
Who did they voted for?
Who did you vote for? He said. Who did you vote for?
No, I mean, I think that, yeah, we could put in a little. Okay,
Please, the man had
I
to say.
have a problem. I have a problem with what is happening at UB. And let me tell you, I used to go to the UB and give lectures. But over the years, it has become too politicized. So therefore, people are not even interested in going to UB. For the reason that if you go there now, you have to speak, they say, for the government of the day. No, we should not be doing that. The only reason why I'm saying what I'm saying now is that for you younger people, you have to understand that in a democracy, you must participate, not only with the ballots.
Joe, but we need to clarify what you said. You said people don't want to go there again, but you mean no want to go there, go speak to the students,
Yes,
right?
yes,
As
because
opposed
they have
to
to
go
speak
there.
to the government. They have to
Right,
represent the government.
Right.
What has been happening over the last, I would say, decades or so, this wasn't like that before, I can tell you. But what has been happening, as the patronage system was becoming more and more entrenched, you'll find that they begin to feel indeed, you said it earlier, Christopher, that people believe that, yes, the fundamentals of the Constitution is about our rights, the freedom of speech, the freedom of association. But you did express a fear. And that fear you expressed was not an imaginary fear. It's a real fear. Because when people begin to feel like state power, which they believe they have, the authority where we, the voters, delegate to them, and they turn around and say they got power. And they want to victimize you if you are not with them. I'm saying this generally. So to me, to suggest that there is a struggle, a power struggle, is telling me, boy, this country is getting serious. How can there be a power struggle between the church and the state? The state is not a power unto itself. The state is a product of the society. We elect them to do the job for us.
They're fighting for souls. I don't know who's gonna win. Yeah. And you are a layman, you say, Christopher.
Lay minister?
You're lay minister. You're doing the preaching and so, right? What denomination?
Anglican.
Anglican. Okay.
Which one you go to? All Saints?
No, St. Anne's.
Where?
St. Anne's.
St. Anne's.
Where's
St.
that?
Anne's.
That's in Belmont.
Oh, in
Belmont.
Okay.
Okay, Anglican Church.
I've been to All Saints my whole life.
Listen, Yeah, I see why the Gibran Ali touched
Yeah,
it.
I want to say thanks very much for coming on, Christopher. We really enjoyed having you, and you have represented and equipped yourself well in your presentation. And it
You-
shows that something
Thank
is
you,
going on at UB.
Christopher.
Something is going on.
Mhm.
You were brave to face up to these wolves that were coming at you, boy, from all angles.
Mhm.
But all it will do is it'll strengthen you and make you better. Stay strong.
Yeah.
Hold on to
Mhm.
your principles and whatnot. Fellas, any final words?
I just want to say thanks for everyone that have joined in this evening and made comments. We didn't get to all of them, but there were many interesting ones that we hope next time we could, if they make them a little bit smaller, I think we could get to them.
Or we should do a part
Because
two.
we could read them. No, we could read them. See, they stay on the screen for a little while, and then they
Right.
go off, and then you can't remember
Yeah,
exactly what
and
they
you'd have
said.
to interrupt the person that's speaking to get them in. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But Christopher, let me say to you tonight, my brother, that you have added value to this show. I thought you were very good. And I wish to continue in the vein that. Thanks.
Thanks, Christopher, for joining us, and we salute you on your future endeavors. And you are welcome to come back anytime to our show, and let your friends know that
Yeah, bring some.
young youths have an open
Definitely.
space on our show to voice your opinions as well. Okay.
Definitely.
Come again and bring somebody with you, right?
Yes.
And make
Will
we have for
do.
the females and this whole thing about females.
Real.
Take over. I know I fight against it, but I don't think that we as Belizeans we could do it, man. All of us together, male and female, right? Thank you, my brother. Have a nice day,
You
gentlemen,
too.
lady. More time. CY.
Why the hammer with one hammer, one hammer, one hammer. Why the hammer with one hammer? Try if it do the same. The favorite hammer and the sledgehammer, sledgehammer, sledgehammer. The favorite hammer and the sledgehammer. Not try if it do the same. Some man want hammer with two hammer, three hammer, four hammer. Some man even hammer with five hammer. Them boy they insane. Next thing you know, baby drama with baby mama. Baby drama, next thing you know, baby drama, no bother call me name. School where me gone that Ebenezer, Ebenezer, Ebenezer. School where me gone that Ebenezer. Them teach me for use me brain. So when me hold the mic, me blow fire, blow fire, blow fire. When me hold the mic, me blow fire. This is not a game. See why the hammer with one hammer, one hammer, one hammer. See why the hammer with one hammer. Try if it do the same. The favorite hammer and the sledgehammer, sledgehammer, sledgehammer. The favorite hammer and the sledgehammer. Not try if it do the same. And to Jaja, all the power, all the power, all the power. And to Jaja, all the power. That he they keep me sane. If one black man they suffer, 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 suffer. If one black man they suffer, suffer. All are wiffy. Blame. Now watch how the lyrics get hotter, 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 hotter. Watch how the lyrics get hotter, hotter. Spit in flame. Keep it smooth like butter, 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 butter. Keep it smooth like butter, butter. Drop tune like rain. See why the hammer with one hammer, one hammer, one hammer. See why the hammer with one hammer. Try if it do the same. My favorite hammer and the sledgehammer, sledgehammer, sledgehammer. My favorite hammer and the sledgehammer. Not try if it do the same. Lot of people them a follow a Lara, follow a Lara, follow a Lara. Lot of people them a follow a Lara. Sell their soul for fame. Whole heap of them a killer, 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 killer. Whole heap of them a killer, killer. Till their shirt get stained. They only know about pleasure, 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 pleasure. They only know about pleasure, pleasure. They don't know about pain. Feel on like feather, 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 feather. Feel on like feather, feather. Better hold a lane. See why the hammer with one hammer, one hammer, one hammer. See why the hammer with one